When you look at the structural mechanics of human interaction, you generally expect to find a certain baseline of, communication protocols.
Right, a standard framework.
Exactly. Two nodes in a network exchange packets of information, establish a handshake, and eventually they reach a state of mutual comprehension. But occasionally you observe a localized interaction that just, well, it completely defies standard predictive models.
Oh, absolutely. It throws the models right out the window.
Yeah. And today we are doing a deep dive into a fascinating stack of primary sources. Digital correspondences, personal server logs, hidden footprints. Our mission today for you listening is to thoroughly examine the backstage dynamics of the star-crossed souls universe.
It's a brilliant subject.
It really is. Specifically, we're dissecting a profound and, honestly, kind of hilarious lack of communication between two individuals whose operating systems and aesthetics completely clash. Yet they are bound by this persistent quantum entanglement that transcends physical space.
It really is a textbook definition of diagnostic muddy waters. But the deeper you look for yourselves, the more compelling it becomes. You're essentially witnessing a masterclass in catastrophic communication.
Yeah.
And what makes it so fascinating is that this failure of data transmission is driven entirely by an unseen, powerful magnetic resonance between them.
Right. So to understand the anomaly, you have to understand the variables. The two nodes in question are entirely disparate in their architecture.
Totally different worlds.
Right. First, we have Kaho Fujikawa.
Yeah.
On the surface, she's a Japanese costume designer and the independent publisher behind Kyushu.
Yeah.
She operates as this rigorous, uncompromising perfectionist.
Yes. But there is a much deeper, almost esoteric layer to her infrastructure.
Right.
Crucially, she is a priestess of the water goddess. She harbors the ancient memories of Oelia, the Archivist of Lyra. And because of this, Kaho is a profoundly intense history geek.
Yeah.
She operates with this vast, highly specialized database of classical knowledge.
And opposite her, you have Hoshino. He's a genius astrophotographer, half Welsh, half Japanese.
And a diehard Liverpool fan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I think the most critical piece of his background is that he is a former plasterer.
Yes.
His mind operates on this highly analytical, strictly scientific framework. He's grounded in the physical, the empirical. He understands the world through structural integrity.
And the parameters of their environment are just as critical as their internal programming. You have to remember, the year is 2021.
Right, the lockdowns.
Exactly. The global system is stifled under severe pandemic restrictions. The usual kinetic energy of the world has just flatlined. Kaho is stationed up in Kyoto, immersed in her historical texts, and Kai is physically located 600 kilometers away, down in Kyushu.
Which is a vast void, especially when the world is effectively in quarantine.
It is. You have to imagine the profound psychological isolation. But what bridges that physical distance isn't, a series of casual check-in texts. Instead, Kato initiates this relentless barrage of what can only be described as academic thesis emails.
Okay, let me pause you there. Because objectively speaking, that behavior is highly irregular.
Oh, highly.
Right. I mean, why is a costume designer sending feverish, outrageously lengthy academic theses across a 600-kilometer void to an astrophotographer? It implies a severe mismatch in output and expected receiver capacity.
Well, it all comes down to Kaho's baseline assumption about what constitutes standard human knowledge. Kaho is entirely fluent in the cosmic language of history. So to her, this isn't esoteric trivia. This is the fabric of reality.
Right.
She fires off these massive emails to Kai about highly obscure Japanese history from the 770s, casually dissecting the reigns of Empress Kukin and Empress Shishitoku. She innocently assumes that, surely everyone learns this in school.
But Kai's pragmatic, science-oriented mind does not index that kind of obscure historical data.
No, not at all.
His storage is allocated to optics, astrophysics, material science. He retains the basic foundational figures, like Prince Shotoku or Emperor Shumu, the ones universally installed in a standard curriculum. So when she starts transmitting these massive packets of data regarding Empress Kukin and Empress Shishitoku, he is left completely in the dark. He's literally sitting there in Kyushu, secretly Googling her terminology just to keep his system from crashing.
Yes. And this is where the cultural discrepancy creates a beautiful friction. Because while he's secretly researching her terminology in the shadows, Kai makes a startling discovery. He finds out that Empress Kukin and Empress Shitoku are actually the exact same woman.
Which is just a duplication error in his data set. From a purely logical standpoint, his reaction makes perfect sense. He observes the data and probably thinks, make up your mind and standardize the nomenclature. I mean, why create two separate historical profiles for one biological entity?
Right, but it's because of a highly rare historical event known as Choso. This occurs when an emperor ascends the throne a second time, which results in an imperial name change. It isn't just a quirk of naming conventions. It actually reflects the profound, unbroken, 2,000 years spiritual infrastructure of Japan's imperial system. Kaho understands this intuitively. But she doesn't stop to explain it to Kai. She just assumes he is logged into the same network.
Right. From a systems perspective, you can visualize Kaho's brain as a specialized high-density server. She's broadcasting these highly encrypted, historically dense data packets. And Kai's baseline logical processors are desperately trying to decrypt this massive influx of information, but he won't admit to the host server that he lacks the cipher.
Exactly. He won't admit it.
He refuses to send back an error code. He just quietly dedicates background processing power to figure it out.
But all this high-level historical decryption hits a very literal, physical brick wall.
Yeah.
Kai's brain can handle the cognitive puzzle, but his hardware cannot.
The data payload is mathematically too heavy for his infrastructure. Because Kaho operates exclusively on professional-grade software. We were looking at her workflow in Lightroom and Photoshop. When she sends him reference images, she is compressing the files for mobile viewing. She is attaching raw, print-ready image files at a staggering 350 dpi.
And for you listening to visualize that density, that equates to roughly 2,894 by 4,093 pixels for a standard A4 page.
Wow.
It is an immense amount of visual data packed into a single email attachment, and she is sending these relentlessly.
And you have to contrast that digital payload with Kai's technological reality. This is a man who mercilessly splurges vast sums of capital on analog film cameras.
Right.
He understands precision optics, the physical weight of glass and metal. But in his daily life, he's a self-confessed technophobe. He prefers WhatsApp over feature-heavy apps like Line, zero active social media. And the device he's using to receive Kaho's massive historical payloads is this cheap burner phone he bought just in case.
Exactly. So you have an unstoppable stream of Kaho's massive emails, relentlessly draining his data limits and literally destroying the operational capacity of his cheap phone. It freezes. It crashes.
But wait, objectively speaking, his response to this makes zero sense.
How so?
Standard operational logic dictates that if a sender's crashing your system, you send a 2-second text saying, please compress your files, you're freezing my OS. But Kai refuses to do that. Instead, he quietly upgrades his entire hardware infrastructure.
Yes, he does.
He goes out and purchases a massive capacity smartphone like a 512 GB model purely to receive her data without system failing. And when she realizes he has a new device, he just grumbles about her bloody heavy images.
He frames it as an annoyance to brush off the inquiry, but his actions tell a completely different story.
From a strict engineering perspective, this behavior is a masterclass in hidden dedication. Think about the hard physics here. Kai recognizes that the sheer bandwidth of their magnetic resonance is overwhelming his current hardware. So, he initiates a structural upgrade. He calculates the necessity for enhanced data capacity and superior thermal management just to maintain a stable connection with her node.
Right.
It is a profound testament to his uncompromising professionalism. He doesn't ask her to lower her resolution. He doesn't ask her to dim her intensity or compress her intellectual output. He simply upgrades his own infrastructure to handle the sustained frequency of her transmission. He ensures the connection remains stable, and he does it without ever making a fuss.
And you have to ask yourself why. Why does a technophobe who prefers analog cameras spend that kind of money and effort on a 512 GB smartphone just to read obscure history emails?
Right.
It's because he isn't just storing this data, he is actively, painstakingly processing it. Late at night, secretly rereading every character. He pulls up Google Maps to rigorously verify the topography she's describing.
Calculating the incident light and exposure in his mind's eye based on her text.
Yes, he even secretly Googles ancient concepts like Hanji Sujaku. That's the highly complex syncretic paradigm where indigenous Japanese deities are actually temporary manifestations of Buddhist entities.
Wow.
He meticulously researches Benzaiten, Ugajin, Princess Ichikishima-hime, and through this silent processing, he finally decodes the geographic coordinates of her message. She is talking about Chikubu Island, and more importantly, she's talking about Enoshima.
And the mention of Enoshima shifts the entire gravitational pull of the interaction, right?
It changes everything. Enoshima is Kai's birthplace. It stirs the absolute most vulnerable core of his heart. Kaho is unknowingly writing to him about the bedrock of his existence.
But his response is to say absolutely nothing.
Nothing.
He doesn't say he spent hours researching Haji Sujaku. He remains completely silent about the computational effort he's expending.
And to understand why, you have to look at the man's foundational identity. This is the direct manifestation of the traditional Japanese artisan's aesthetic. Kai is a former plasterer. He's a craftsman. In that world, actions and the unyielding quality of the work speak infinitely louder than words.
Right.
Explaining one's own efforts, the late nights, the sweat, it's considered fundamentally unrefined. His silence is a deeply ingrained aesthetic choice. He acts as her silent protector, her steady compass.
But the structural irony here is that his stoic, artisanal silence translates directly into a catastrophic lack of communication.
Yes.
His strict refusal to output his internal diagnostic state means she remains completely oblivious to his rigorous dedication. It's an endearing, yet complete failure of the communication protocol.
But that specific star-crossed dynamic, their profound, unspoken quantum entanglement, is exactly what makes their journey so utterly compelling. The fact that their aesthetics clash so violently on the surface, yet they are inextricably pulled together by a magnetic resonance they don't even vocalize. It is the ultimate collision of an unstoppable force and an immovably silent object.
The remaining archives are locked within the scribe's private library. Letters by letter, volume by volume, this extraordinary duo is ready to lift the veil. The Chronos archive is now open. Let the great tuning begin. Star-crossed souls,